Hi, everybody. This is Kevin from The Kevin Lee Show, and I just wanted to welcome you to my podcast. And if you've been here before and you've heard my podcast and you're now returning, then I want to welcome you back to my podcast. I also wanted to take a quick moment just to touch base with you and talk to you about my website, which is thekevinleeshow.com. That's thekevinleeshow.com. And the reason why I wanted to mention it to you is it's kind of like a central hub of all my stuff. So if you're ever interested in either listening to my podcast, reading my blogs, watching my videos, or just checking me out on social media, you can find all the information and all the links right there. But without further ado, it's time for the podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it might be, wherever you may be. Welcome to The Kevin Lee Show. Alrighty, everybody. I just wanted to take a second here before I get going and apologize first off if my voice sounds a little scratchy or if I have to pause from time to time to take some water because where I live, it is springtime and my allergies are going a little haywire. Also, if you hear any little voices or banging or noises in the background, that's just my two little ones. So ignore them. And if it annoys you, sorry. Anyways, here's the blog. Life happens in the 20s. Don't get confused here. I'm not saying that your life is formed in your 20s, though some would argue that it is, but rather that life is lived in 20-year increments. 0 to 20, 21 to 40, 41 to 60, 61 to 80, and for the lucky ones, 81 to 100. Another way that you could think of it is in quarters. Each 20 years makes up 1 quarter of life, and anything after the age of 80 is overtime. For instance, I am 42 years old, which puts me in the start of the 3rd quarter. Basically, I'm fresh out of the locker room after halftime, and now I'm back on the court. Or, in my particular case, I'm starting out the second half on the bench. But that's kind of by choice. Kind of. But, like I was saying, we live life within these 20-year segments. In our first 20 years, the 1st quarter, we find ourselves in the midst of the sweet spot. Now, I'm not attempting to say that life never gets better than the 1st quarter because I believe that it does, though I suppose it's a personal preference. I call it the sweet spot because it's a magical time, or at least should be, wherein we start out as little peanuts, empty of all influence and as innocent can be, just waiting to be filled up with all sort of things, information, opinions, views. Yes, there is a difference between opinions and views, and so many other wonderful and not so wonderful stuff. It happens progressively over the entire 20 years. Again, 1st quarter. And even as you go along this linear path, there are subsections of learning that take place. Infancy, toddlerhood, childhood, preteen, tween, yes, it's a thing, teenage, adolescence, young adult, and if you're lucky, adulthood. And before you know it, it's over, and you're into the 2nd quarter, 21 to 40. Now, the next 20 years is kind of a crapshoot. There is so much that goes into setting up how this period will go for you, mind you, most exclusively from the last 5 or 6 years of the 1st quarter, that before you even realize it, you might be hip deep in a river without a paddle or even a boat. And there may or may not be gators in the water. This is usually based on one of 2 factors. Either you didn't plan well, or you have crappy luck. Could even be a combo of the 2. That said, it's totally not too late to do something about it. So, do something about it. Now, the other half, the smart ones, and or the lucky ones, it's your time to shine and work like a dog. Not just in school, but at work and at life. If you thought that the last few years of quarter 1 was important, and they were, at least for setting up your early 20s, it's nothing compared to what happens here in quarter 2. You see, what you do now and continue to do for the next 10 to 20 years will more than likely set up the rest of your entire life. So, no pressure. Where you go to school, what do you study, where do you work, who do you marry, how many kids do you have kids? All these questions, and more, will direct and sculpt your life for years to come and might even very well determine all of your days. So yeah, it's pretty important. But before you know it, you're into the quarter 3, 41 to 60. I know what you're thinking. Well, that was a bit fast. Trust me, it is. No BS. By the time you hit your 40s, life will feel as though you're going at warp speed. And for good reason, because it is. ball games, family gatherings, weddings, dance recitals, vacations, business trips, trips to the car shop, trips to the doctor, trips to the ER, work, school plays, school meetings, unexpected emergencies, getting fired, getting hired, health scares, going to funerals. And unfortunately, these occur at surprising rates even for people your own age, etc. You'll have more to do than you'll think possible. You'll probably ask yourself, what about me? When do I get time for me? Sorry, that won't happen for quite some time, if ever. But don't worry about it, because before you know it, it's the fourth quarter, 61 to 80. This, of all stages, really carries the potential of being a mixed bag. Usually you have some pretty good stuff going on in your life. Kids, grandkids, career accomplishments, properties, investments, etc. But after living this long, chances are you also have some pretty bad crap hanging around as well. Lost loved ones, health issues, financial issues, family divisions, etc. In fact, no matter how well you plan out your life or how well you prepare for all that life can throw at you, sometimes it's never enough. Now, there are those who seem to have come out of the third quarter and emerged into the fourth quarter looking to be untouchable. I can assure you, no one makes it into the fourth quarter without some issues. Just keep that in mind. But with that said, I would like also to note two major points of the fourth quarter. One, this will be the period of your adult life where you will finally start to have more time for yourself. Though when most people reach this lifelong goal, they realize that they no longer really want it anymore. And number two, chances are you won't finish the game. Statistically, the average person fouls out, leaves the game early, gets ejected. In other words, they expire before the clock does. Believe me, I'm not trying to be morbid, just realistic. But for the lucky ones, or not so lucky ones, you'll have to ask them, comes overtime. Or maybe more aptly put, sudden death? What? Too much? Yes, that's right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in overtime, 81 plus. For some, these are amazing times. For others, not so much. I, for one, have known 83, 87, 95-year-olds begging me to kill them. That is, if they are even coherent enough to know what that means anymore. Then I've known other people who, at the same ages, were doing amazingly well, relatively speaking. I kid you not, I have a grandmother who is 95 years old, lives on her own, drives, well I might add, and is showing no signs of slowing down, considering all in all. So it just goes to show you that you really have no idea what to expect. In the end, no matter how long any of us live for, the same rule applies to each and every one of us. None of us get out alive. So, live like today matters, because each day of our lives do. Thanks for taking the time to listen, Kevin.